I think what this weekend showed me is that there's a level of acceptance from Vizma that they can't beat Poggi. If you go to the Tour de France and you don't win a stage, it can't be a success. It can't be. So he grabbed this cardboard sign, ripped off what he wanted, put it down his top. But as he ripped it, the girl tried to hold on to it. What's occurring, bud?
What's occurring? Brought to you by Continental Tyres, the main partner of the Tour de France. Now, Luke, it is Monday. It is the rest day. Oh, my goodness, what a weekend we witnessed.
Yeah, big old weekend. That stage Saturday. Great to see Ineos get that win. After a lot of time trying. I wouldn't say they've come particularly close, but, they've been top fives, pretty present in breakaways. It's clear that the GC isn't quite there, but they've been they've animated the races with the breakaways. So good to see them get what they deserve there. And then, of course, Tim Wellens, which, a bit of a rogue one, and we'll get into, having been in the yellow, having his leader in the yellow jersey and a guy in the breakaway going for the break. Not everyone's cup of tea, but both great stages, both breakaway wins, and two very worthy winners.
Two very worthy winners. Let's start with Timon because it's the biggest moment of his career. He's a very talented rider, young rider, good climber, which you don't always get for a Dutchman, although they always love their mountains. It felt to me, and I think we can probably discuss this properly because the third part of this pod is currently resting on his rest day. But Ineos really needed this, didn't they? Like, you were part of that Sky/Ineos generation where it was about GC, and it's no longer about GC. So if it's no longer about GC and you don't win a single stage at the Tour, then it's not good, is it?
And if you go to the Tour de France and you don't win a stage, unless you're really up there in the GC, it can't be a success. It can't be. They have backed Carlos. They tried put him in the breakaway. I think that was on Friday stage with many teammates who spoke about that. So GC it's not quite there. That's clear to see. And then you go, right, we want to win a stage without a sprinter, and with a man like Poggi, who we know they try and scoop up as many stages as they can. There's very few stages left. When you break down the 21, you say take the sprints away, take the time trials away, take all them stages that Poggi is going to commit to. There's not many left. So credit to them, and they definitely, they needed it, especially losing Garner early. He'd have been, one of your favourites to pick up a stage in the time trial, maybe. So losing him on day one, they've had their backs against the wall, and, despite me not being there now, I'm still, I still got a special place in my heart for that team. Right or wrong, if anyone from Decathlon AG2R is listening, it's the way it is. When you've been somewhere 13 years, you naturally have a soft spot for them, and you still want them to succeed. So, credit where it's due.
Yeah, and I think it also helps not just in this moment at this Tour de France, but, there is a new iteration of the team coming into shape. It's something that pushes you forward into the next era as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, they will always be under the microscope, that team, and under the public eye, and they will always get scrutinised because, a bit like Manchester United now football, when you've done the treble, when you've done everything, and you've been one of the dominant teams in Europe for so many years, and then as soon as you stop getting that success, people like to bash you and put you down, and why aren't you doing as good as you used to? And that's exactly what they're, a lot of criticism. And I was there, when I was there, we had, what are they now? They're a shambles. They used to be great. Now they're shit. They can't do anything. And actually, it's like, I don't know what they're doing there now, but they keep calling it a transition period. I think you can't transition for too long. But stage of the Tour de France, they don't come by easy. And, that stage that Timon won. And also the way he won it, I think it was like 5,000 metres or something. It's
brutal.
An absolute beast of a day. And just a style he won it as well. I don't know the exact kilometres, give or take 40k. He was solo there, wasn't he? And, that takes big balls and good legs. So, credit.
Yeah. And just on that point of Sky and Ineos' former dominance, it never lasts in whichever sport you look at. There is always a period of dominance for a team or a club or a nation, whatever it might be. If you're talking rugby, then you have a period of All Blacks dominance. Now you've got a period of Springboks dominance at World Cups in particular. In football, you've referenced Manchester United. Well, Man City won a load of titles in a row, and now Liverpool have won a title. There is an inevitability about not so much a decline, but in a changing of the guard in sport. And some of the conditions that were there, let's say 10, 8, 7 years ago for Sky and Ineos are no longer there. You've got teams with big budgets like UAE and Vizma, and you've got teams who have tried to look at tactics that were successful in the past and try to move them on. And that's totally natural as well, isn't it? You never get one style in any sport, but one style in cycling, the way that Sky and you used to ride, work perfectly. But there will be other styles of riding and other riders who want to ride in different ways, and that inevitably brings change.
Yeah, exactly. And I think these things come in cycles as well. So you can have a dominant team for, because if you think Sky slash Ineos was dominant really from
2012.
Yeah, through to 19. Yeah. 7 years. And now it's like UAE. I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, Jumbo was the best team. 2 years ago, Jumbo was the best team. So UAE have been dominant for 2-3 years. So Sky and Ineos was dominant for double that. But only in the Tour de France, not in the Classics. So not in the same way as UAE are now, and not, Jumbo won 3 Grand Tours with 3 different riders. So actually, that dominance of Team Sky that everyone talks about, it wasn't across the board of cycling.
That's a really good point.
It was only in the Grand Tours and mainly the Tour de France. They go to Dauphiné, we go to Dauphiné, win it, go to the Tour and win it. But even the back end of the season was often pretty light, and then early season was pretty light. But, we did that for 7 years. But what UAE is doing it across all the races and absolutely destroying the Tour de France. So it's impressive what they're doing. But let's see how long they can do it for. Hopefully not too long. Decathlon's coming, boys.
Oh, big time.
Enough about Sky and Ineos. Fuck those guys. Decathlon, man. Allez le bleu.
While we're talking about UAE, this is a nice little way into Tim Wellens' win on Sunday. So there seems to be a lot to go at here, not just in the fact that Tim Wellens won it. There's the fact that UAE are so stacked and they're so comfortable that they could send Wellens up the road. They clearly feel absolutely nailed on with Poggy for GC. But then there's other stuff going on there as well, isn't there? Because there was another Belgian chasing down Victor Campenaerts, rides for a different team. And it's put me back in mind of the comments made by Jonas Vingegaard's wife at the start of the Tour, where she slightly cryptically alluded to the fact that maybe Vizma weren't committing as totally to Jonas's chances of GC as UAE were for Poggy. And last time we spoke, we were speaking after Simon Yates had won that stage. And I put forward a theory which has turned out to be nonsense, which was that maybe that Vizma was feeling so confident in their resources that they were allowing him to go for stage wins. With retrospect, now seeing what has happened to Jonas and seeing how confident and dominant UAE are, I think it's the other way around. I think they were maybe hedging their bets. I think Vizma were hedging their bets from an earlier time in the race than we realised.
I think what this weekend showed me is that there's a level of acceptance from Vizma that they can't beat Poggy. So then how do you get... They're still second in the Tour de France, which is incredible in itself.
Comfortably.
Yeah, comfortably. They're quite far from first and quite far ahead of third. So they're like, we are second. There's a level of acceptance. Okay, I think they'll still continue to do what they can, but there's a level of acceptance. So it's like, we're not realistically going to drop to third. To overtake Poggy is going to be very difficult. So how do we get success along the way? And that's stages. And then UAE is in the situation that we did speak about last time, in that they are so confident. We got the strongest guy by far, the strongest team, and we're just going to be greedy and get as much as we can. And also, I think a lot of that, green light to give riders the breakaway, a lot of that comes from Poggy himself. I'm sure it's in the end, the ultimate decision comes from the DS, but a certain level of that decision to give guys green lights to go and breakaway comes from the team leader, Poggy himself. And he's like, I've got 7 absolute weapons around me. If one's in the break and wins a stage and I've got 6 around me, it's all good. And also that guy in the break is allowed to kind of has the right, as we've seen with Tim Wellens, to sit on the back and have an easier ride than the rest of the guys. So I think after that weekend we learn a lot, and that is that UAE is like, we're the best, we're so confident, we don't need our whole team around. Let's be greedy, as they should. Win everything you can, boys. Take them to the cleaners. And Vizma have gone, we're going to struggle to win this Tour de France. We're not going to get passed by third. We'll try and not, I'm going to say consolidate, because they've still finished second in the Tour, but try and get a couple of stage wins along the way. But it's interesting. Yeah.
It's some of the phrasing, I think, that gets used between the different teams as well that can tell you quite a lot. So you're now hearing this stuff from Vizma, the line, best of the rest. And it's a little phrase, but I think it's really telling, because not only does it show an acceptance of the balance of power in this Tour, but Poggi has been, since Jonas won his 2 tours to make it 2-2, Poggi 2, Jonas 2, since Poggi won last year, became world champion, hoovering up classics left, right and centre, like best of the rest could be seen as a defeatist strategy. It's because sport is about winning. But if you are up against someone like Tadej Pogacar, best of the rest is a good place to be. I know it's not where Vizma want to be, but best of the rest is not failure when you're up against Tadej Pogacar.
I also don't think it's failure if you try and win. If it might sound a bit like child's talk, but if you give everything you can, and I think as a team they have, okay, they've put 1 or 2 guys in the breakaways, but God, they've backed Vingegaard 100%. You can't, I didn't see that quote by his wife, but I also understand it was taken out of context. And you always got to remember there's different languages, and by the time it gets translated, it's never quite what comes out of the mouth. I know that all too well, and I think they have backed him 100%. Look at the way they got him through them early stages. They were on the front foot every time there was crosswinds. They were there with numbers. I think they backed him 100%, but it's just that you can be as optimistic as you want, but sometimes you've got to be realistic and go in, we've got the second best guy at this bike race. And after the stage yesterday, Poggi said, if I was Vingegaard, I wouldn't be happy, was the quote. Because there was a crash quite early on. And Poggi was caught behind. Meanwhile, there was, I think, 2 or 3 teammates either attacking or in the breakaway. But either way, not with Vingegaard. And that's quite unlike Poggi. It's not, he's just like, normally his interviews are all good, great race, loved it, not really like too aggressive. But you also see a little bit, I think there's Vingegaard's quite chilled, but like Jorgensen, I think he'll bite back a little bit, and you see the way they're racing, that's quite interesting. I think there's a little bit of sandpaper, a bit of friction between Jorgensen and Poggi, but then you just have to bring it back to basics and just go, in the Tour de France, any quote, however small it is, if it has a slight spin of anything but, everything's all good, it's your headline. So, yeah, I think that they're just 2 good riders, 2 good teams going head to head. Might be a little bit of sandpaper. I don't think it's the big grudge match and hatred that is kind of portrayed in the media, but there's definitely a little bit of sandpaper there somewhere, which is good, isn't it?
It's good and it's natural in elite sport, isn't it? Shall we talk about Lulu? Poor Lulu. Julian Alaphilippe. So he had quite the Sunday, Luke, didn't he? Crashed, number 1. Number 2, dislocated his shoulder. Number 3, popped his shoulder back in himself. 4, sprinted for what he thought was the win. Sadly, very sadly, his team radio was not working, and he didn't realise that Tim Wellens and Victor Campenaerts had crossed the line ahead of him. That's quite the rollercoaster Sunday.
I mean, yeah, wow. And again, what everyone will focus on, everyone will say, look at this plonker putting his arms in the air, having finished. Not only was there 1 person away, there was 2. But then I just look at that and go, what a weapon, what a warrior. Like, I've never dislocated my shoulder, but I'm sure it hurts. And to put it back in yourself probably hurts
also
as well.
Then to lift both arms, having dislocated one. I mean, even if it's celebrated with one arm.
Yeah, it shows how tough he is.
Yeah.
But what made it impressive for me, okay, number one, shoulder. Number two, put it back in. But number three, he got back in the bike race, but then he got in the breakaway. Just that, like, mental resilience, you know, in that situation, it's like, I'm sure the DS would say, and I would say, all right, just get through the day now, mate. You know, you had a terrible start. Let's get through the day. Let's see how you are. You know, tomorrow's a tough day. And then you got your rest day. Let's just get through it. And this is Lulu. That's why people love him. He's brilliant. To come back from that, get back to the peloton, work your way through, go in the breakaway. And then, yeah, he made a mistake. If you haven't got race radio, it's easy to do. You know, the only thing you can do there is ask others in the group, but maybe they weren't sure either. But what I liked about Alaphilippe is that he just went, in his interview after, he was like, spoke his way through it, and then he said, yeah, and then I'm the idiot who put his hands in the air when two people at the road. What can you do? You know, shit happens. But did you see there was another talking point with Alaphilippe with, for those who haven't seen it, he was riding up a climb, and an old school thing to do, and some fans still do it, is at the top they hold out newspaper. And I've used it a few times, and thank you to the people who still do it. And sometimes your car's too far behind, or you just want a little bit of a layer. And if you put newspaper, it absorbs the water on your chest straight away.
Down the front of your jersey.
That's it, down the front of the jersey, and off you go. There was nobody with newspaper. Alaphilippe was towards the top of the climb. Obviously, a team car wasn't there, and there was someone holding a sign, cardboard sign, and it said, "Go Wout van Aert."
Not even his sign.
So he grabbed this cardboard sign, ripped off what he wanted, put it down his top. But as he ripped it, the girl tried to hold on to it and like screamed, "Ah!" as if he was robbing it. Of which Alaphilippe got a fine for bad image of cycling, which is bollocks because
big time.
It's just pathetic. Anyway, he descended back down. He got his fine, apologised, and then this is what is great about cycling. Sunday morning, I don't know if it was Tudor or Jumbo actually, who invited this girl to the paddock Sunday morning with what was left of her ripped up sign and had a photo.
sweaty
horrible
sign.
What was left of this sign, together with Lulu and Wout van Aert. I mean, what a sport.
That's
what
a beautiful
story.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. And look, it's not Lulu's fault because, as we all know, there's been a decline in print media. There aren't the same number of people reading the same number of newspapers. There's not going to be people with copies of L'Equipe at the top of every climb. You have to take, Luke, what is available. And if a cardboard sign cheering on a rider from a different team in a different nation is the only thing available, that's all you have to go for.
And he's been around the block as Lulu. He knows the tricks of the trade, you know, like the new generation, they wouldn't think of doing that. You know, I've done it many times, and, you know, the older statesmen in the peloton, you know, if you haven't got anything and you're going down a climb, you don't want to get cold, you grab what you can. I've shoved all sorts down my top, you know. You know, you got to put down whatever will keep you warm, and then you get to the bottom of the climb and you chuck it away in the bin, obviously.
Yeah, in the litter zone. Yeah.
No, in a green zone or something. Get rid of it. Obviously the best thing is to get a jersey from your team car, but there's 2 team cars, 8 riders. They're spread across a lot of terrain, dropped at different times. So you often see people doing that in the mountains, and obviously, yeah, it didn't look great for someone who's a new spectator, and he's ripping this sign off this poor girl, but the story goes full circle.
She's had a much better result, hasn't she? Much better result. If, let's say she keeps her sign, Lulu doesn't take it, Wout van Aert sees it, probably doesn't even have time to react facially. She's thinking, well, what was the point of that? Now she's some sort of, you know, minor talking point on an episode of What's Occurring.
Now she's famous.
Yeah. We are going to talk about the battle for third. So it was sad to see Remco go home. He was struggling in the mountain time trial. He wasn't where he wanted to be. You don't pull out of the biggest bike race in the world unless you really have to, do you?
No, it's sad to see. You know, obviously wasn't himself. He came into the Tour really good. He won that time trial. I think the time he was in the Tour de France, he animated and added to the race. Guy's a fighter. Guy's a warrior. A guy like him has only pulled out if he can't continue, or if he sees... No, actually, what I mean by that, he can't continue competing at the level he wants to compete at. He could have made it to Paris,
isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Why would he grovel round? If you're Remco, why do you grovel round? It doesn't actually work for anyone.
No, and there's, in a team like Quick-Step, they got some great sprinters, some great riders, but not many other world-class GC riders. You know, they got Lander himself, maybe one or two others, but not world-class. So he stops now, he reassesses, and he salvages the season by competing well in his next few races, whatever it'll be. But for him to grovel around and just for the sake of getting to Paris, it's not worth it. And he said himself he's not sure what it was. Like he arrived, he felt good, but he can't push. The power's not in the legs, and that's life. That's life, and you got to move on. But I think, the big loser from it all is the spectators, because to have him on all guns firing is a huge addition to the bike race. But he'll be back. He's a tough little bugger, isn't he? So hopefully he'll come back and he can win this race. I honestly believe he can. Finished third last year.
Can he win it in the era of Poggy?
I think if Poggy's at his best, I don't know who can beat Poggy, to be honest. Poggy's 27 now.
He's at his peak, isn't he?
He's at his peak, but I think there's no reason he can't hold that until he's 30, 31 if he wanted to. Be interesting to see what he does. A lot of different things motivate different riders. One of the big things is clearly money. That's obvious. Money, success. People have lots of other different reasons, but I wonder what will happen when he's 30. He's had all the success. Reportedly, he's on 8 million a year. Money's no issue. Will he get to 30 and go, that's it? I'll have a couple of kids and chill out. I've had all the success in the world. I'm the GOAT of cycling.
He could have 7 tours by then, couldn't he? 7 tours, quite apart from the classics and the World Championships. 7 tours.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how long he goes on for. But if he maintains this level, I don't see how. Because he's over 4 minutes ahead, and there's still 6 days to go. They've got Ventoux tomorrow. He could finish with 5, 6, 7 minutes. It's a huge gap. So, but Remco's at that age where he's probably still got a bit of headroom. He's probably still getting a bit better. We can't forget last year, 2024 was his first ever Tour de France. It's only his second ever Tour de France. You can get excited early, going, he's not going to beat Poggy, but he's probably still learning about himself, probably still improving. So my head says no, but my heart would say, love to see him compete for a Tour de France in the era of Poggy.
If you were sitting down with him when he's recovered and got himself healthy and energised again, Luke, would you say to him, in terms of the next 2 years, would you go, do you know what, Remco? You're a fantastic rider. You're the best time trialer in the world. Your climbing is good, but it's not at the level of the very best, singular or plural, if we include Jonas.
Yeah.
Would you say to him, listen, enjoy the Giro, go for the Giro, go for the Vuelta. You are a rider who should be winning Grand Tours. Maybe in this era, there's no shame in saying, I don't want to finish second at the Tour. I don't want to finish third at the Tour. I want to clock up the big Grand Tours. The Giro, as you know, is a magnificent race. The Vuelta is a great race. So what would you say to him if you were sitting down with Remco when he's recovered and talking to him about his targets for the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because if Vinny and Poggy aren't there, probably he's the best Grand Tour rider. He's already won the Vuelta. And again, he's another best of the rest, but apart from 2. But the Tour de France. In 20 years, you'll always remember Poggy, obviously. Vingegaard, obviously. You'll always remember Egan Bernal. You'll always remember Geraint Thomas. You'll always remember Chris Froome, because they've won the Tour de France. These guys who, despite Roglic winning all the Vueltas. It's not the Tour de France. And Giro and Vuelta are huge races. The Tour's the Tour, man. So I would just say, keep trying for the Tour. Keep trying for the Tour. You can have his success early season. He can win Liège. He can win week-long stage races.
2 Olympic titles, road and time trial.
Exactly. You name it, he can win it. But I think you got to keep committing to the Tour. And I also think Remco's a guy who loves the challenge of go, right here, right now, but not being the best. I feel like he's a guy who wants to race the best. The real best riders in the world, their mentality is I want to go to bike races, the biggest bike races, with the best riders and win. And they like the challenge of that. So I would say carry on doing what you're doing and try and come to the Tour every year, learn, improve, and your time will come. Don't at this point go, oh, I might just sneak to a Giro or a Vuelta. Tour's the Tour, man. Big old bike race.
Nice. Okay, so in Remco's absence, we have a fresh-looking battle for third. We've got Florian Lipovitz, who's clearly a very good young rider, and also saving a little bit of bacon/face for Red Bull, because they've not had the easiest of tours. So he's at 7:53 from Pogacar in third. We then have Oscar Onley. Kelso's Oscar Onley, who is about a minute, just minute 25 down. And then we have Kevin Vauquelin. Of those three, who is your favourite for the podium in Paris? Because, look, all of them can climb clearly. Oscar Onley's had an amazing first 2 weeks. You would hope he would enjoy Ventoux on Tuesday. I suppose the only asterisk for a young rider like that is, are they going to hit a point that a lot of riders hit in the Tour, where you can hold it and hold it and hold it and hold it, and then everything will maybe catch up with you to a greater or lesser extent at some stage. So where would your money be?
Yeah, actually it's quite good if Lipovitz does finish on the podium, because in our first podcast, we said who was going to win the white jersey, and I said, actually, I got to be honest, we said you can't choose Remco because he was such a clear favourite for the white jersey. So after Remco, who do you think would be the next best in the white jersey? And I said Florian Lipovitz. So it's always nice to be right, isn't it? Because I'm normally wrong. So yeah, and I think he's the favourite for it. If you look at Saturday's stage, he was best of the rest, really, wasn't he? He seems solid. He did 2 Grand Tours last year. He did Giro Vuelta last year. Didn't finish Giro. Finished 7th in the Vuelta. So it's shown, he can go the full course of 3 weeks to finish 7th in the Grand Tour. I don't see him having a big drop off, like some guys do, really struggle in the last week. I think, he's already been there and done it and performed in the last week of a Grand Tour. So I think it's going to be him. But I mean, if you look through the list of the riders in the top 10, there's a few names you go, wow, like Vauquelin to finish 5th is huge. Riding for a team that has still not got a sponsor, this could be the difference maker for them. It'd be an amazing story if Vauquelin got on the podium, and it would be a very, very, very sad day if Arkea folded. They are a team, with history and have had some good success over the years, and maybe that's what they need to secure a sponsor, but I don't think he's going to do it. And then Onley, I think Onley and Vauquelin are the two names that you just go, wow, 4th and 5th in the Tour de France. So if I had to choose, I would say Onley. British, isn't he? Nice guy. Got to back your home, your countrymen. We're talking about a guy who's rolled back to the first few days of the Tour, and he was like, I look left and it was Poggy, I look right and it was Van der Poel or whatever, and he was just had pinch himself moment, and now other people will be looking right and seeing Oscar Onley and going, wow, there's Oscar Onley. So the leap he's taken during this first 2 weeks is incredible. If I had to actually say who would finish on the podium, I would say head says Lipovitz, heart Vauquelin I wouldn't mind, but Onley I would love to see. Also in a team that's struggling.
That's true. That does put it in greater contrast, doesn't it, actually? I'm now going to move us on to a very simple quiz question. Luke, what do the following 15 teams have in common? Wanty, Bahrain, Red Bull, FDJ, Tudo, Jayco, Arkea, Movistar, Decathlon, Cofidis, Astana, Total Energies, Picnic Post, Israel, and Lotto Soudal.
They haven't won a stage yet.
Is the correct answer.
Ooh,
I feel like we should have some gloomy music behind that answer, because on the second rest day of the Tour, when we're going up Ventoux tomorrow and we have more hills to come, and then we have the traditional Sprinters Paradise of the Champs-Élysées on Sunday, I mean, that's 15 teams squeezing into a very small number of potential stage wins to save their race.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of sad boys in Paris, isn't there?
Sad boys in Paris, indeed.
I mean, like we said, without a stage of the Tour, can you really consider the Tour de France a success? Maybe you finish second in the GC or third in the GC and don't win a stage. There is, maybe you win the green jersey because you finish 10 times second. You can still have success, but in general, you need a stage. And at the moment, 15 teams haven't had that. So, yeah, for sure. I think they need to go after it, but there's not many opportunities. Like, if you look at tomorrow, I think UAE have just got to try and mop it up again. Just be greedy. I mean, if they're on the start line tomorrow and they're all fit and healthy, the only thing tomorrow, though, is it really is like a flat profile. A few little climbs maybe, but a flat profile, 1-2. So if a break, 10, 12, not more than 15, more than 8, less than 15. If a group of that size goes, it's a perfect number to rotate and roll on them flat lands, and they'll be very, very hard to catch. If a group of 30 goes, or if a group of less than 8 go, there's too much messing around if there's a big group, and less than 8, 7, 6 is not as much firepower. So I think UAE will want to control early on and take the stage win. Like, I think he's also starting to think of that Cavendish record.
I do as well, yeah.
Take every stage win you can. So the only way they won't be able to is if it's one of these breakaways where it's 15 guys, the right combination, they all rotate, there's great cohesion within the group, and they're too strong to be caught. But yeah, I think Poggy's the favourite, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he has to be. Of those 15 teams, I was going to say which is the most desperate to rescue their tour. They're all keen to rescue their tour. So I'll flip it round. Who do you think most needs it? I mean, we are at the Tour de France and there are French teams on that list, and you work for one of those French teams, so I don't want to put you in a tricky spot. But if you are a French team at the Tour, it's not only the biggest bike race in the world, it's your bike race.
Yeah.
And a certain amount of pressure comes with that, doesn't it? Yeah,
definitely. The only thing I would say with that is their, Decathlon, FDJ, Cofidis, Arkea. They're not the biggest teams in the world at the moment. They're very much, some of them are, towards the bottom of the world tour. Team like Decathlon were kind of middle of the pack. So they're always going to be underdogs. You start on the start line of any stage and they're never going to be the favourites. But then you got 21 opportunities and you do have to capitalise. And you have to think outside the box and say, if we haven't won a stage win now, if I was at the Tour de France now and working for any team and you haven't won a stage win, you go, let's just get into these 6 stages and really think about it outside the box. What can we do and how are we going to do it? Because it hasn't worked 14 times, 15 times. We got 6 more opportunities. So who most needs it? I don't know. I'd always pick the teams who are struggling for sponsors, which is Arkea.
Existential reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just something in me that never wants a team to fold. It's not just the riders. So say a team folds, it's 30 riders out of contract. If a team like Arkea folded, let's just talk about Arkea. Of them 30 riders, 25 won't get a contract in a World Tour team. Probably 15 of them won't get a contract in Pro Conti teams because they're almost full. Should have 15 riders pretty much forced into retirement or small teams. Then I don't know how many staff they got, 60, 80, 100. They're not all going to get jobs. And it's just like, just don't want to see that many people lose their jobs. So obviously I was to pick a team, I would love to see Decathlon Age-Trois. I think they've raced quite well. They've put some guys in the breakaways, but just haven't had that killer blow, really. I think Felix Gall has slowly climbed the ranks in the GC up into 8th. Be nice to see him climb 1 or 2 more places. I think it's going to be difficult to do, but why not? But yeah, if I had to pick a team completely with no bias, probably be Arkea.
Yeah. Okay, that is us done for today, Luke. We are going to reconvene in person. A rare treat for us. We're reconvening in Paris on Sunday for a very special pod, live from the Champs-Élysées. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to try and find my passport today so we don't have a panic on Saturday morning when we set off. It's going to be a good week. It's going to be a great finale. We'll catch up soon.
See you on the Champs-Élysées, mate. Look forward to it.